Welcome back. Now, West African leaders present at a summit in Ghana have agreed to a new roadmap to launch a single currency in 2027. Now, the regional bloc, Ecowas, had planned to launch a common currency this year, but postponed the plan due to challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic. The currency, known as ECO, aims to replace the CFA franc used in former French colonies. Proponents of the ECO say it will help countries break dependence and exploitation by Paris. Well, let's find out what happened at that meeting. We're joined now by Nabil Ahmed Rufai. He joins us in Accra. Always good to see you, Nabil. Now, of course, this isn't the first time we're seeing the launch date of that single currency postponed. It was, of course, initially slated for 2003. Take us through the reasons behind moving it up another 6 years, and certainly the role they say the pandemic played.
Well, Uche, the delay in the launch of the single currency ECO mainly has to do with the economic pressures that these West African countries are facing. Now, you know that there are some criteria that they had to meet before they adopt the single currency ECO. And one of the criteria had to do with the fact that the countries had to limit their fiscal deficits to no more than 4% to GDP. Again, they were also to reduce their inflation to a single digit every year. And clearly, almost all the 15 West African countries have not been able to really achieve this. Now, when the pandemic hit last year, it even made the situation worse. The disruptions caused by the pandemic to the country's economies made it even more difficult to really meet these criteria, which is actually a convergence criteria for them to all come to before they are able to go ahead to start using the ECO. So largely, it has got to do with the economic pressures that they have been facing, and the COVID-19 pandemic even made it worse.
Well, some would say, Nabil, that this decision really doesn't come as a surprise, given that there were already some issues on the table, including questions around whether countries like Nigeria were willing to let go of their national interests in favor of regional interests. So how much progress had really been made in putting together that single currency?
Well, indeed, it's not surprising that, again, they have had to postpone the launch of the single currency ECO to 2021. This is because most of the country's economies are not doing well. The inflation is high. They are not able to meet the fiscal deficits of 4% to GDP. And also, some of the countries are facing this political instability. You know that quite recently we had a situation in Mali last year. There was a military takeover, and it happened again this year. So other countries are also facing their own terrorism attacks and all that. So these are the issues that's really making it difficult for the ECOWAS member state to really go ahead to implement this single currency ECO. But then with Nigeria, of course, they were also dragging their feet with regard to the 50 member states adopting the ECO. But then last year, in 2019, during a particular summit, President Buhari told the leaders that Nigeria was ready to rally behind the entire other countries within the ECOWAS member states to go ahead with the implementation of the ECO, only for the situation to be disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Uche.
Well, Nabil, what happened with the francophone nations? That's the bloc of 8 nations that already share the CFA franc. They had started reforms of their own. We know in 2019 they agreed to plan to start phasing out the CFA franc. What's the latest on their progress?
There's been a lot of progress on that front, Uche, because, you know, the bloc of 8 francophone countries that have strong ties with France, they have been keeping their foreign exchange reserves in the French central bank, and there were plans for them to start withdrawing their reserves from Paris. And last year, there was a major move that France actually did by reviewing their laws. Now the law that has been passed allows these bloc of 8 countries to no longer send their 50% foreign exchange reserves to the French Central Bank. Now, there is an agreement that they can now move it elsewhere. And talking about Senegal, a central bank for West African states. Now, that's an incredible feat to achieve, because once they are trying to wean themselves out of the economic hold of France, now there is a move towards they also having their own currency. I mean, when these eco really happen. So that's the latest that we can say from the bloc of 8 African countries within the West African sub-region that really have a hold or ties with France. Uche.
That's certainly progress. As always, great to have your insights, Nabil. That, of course, is Nabil Ahmed Rufai joining us there in Accra.